So, as promised, we are back with the next set of clips that I wanted to bring to you guys on a Saturday late night. We got first up the Chris Cuomo Project. Why so many Americans feel betrayed by politics. We'll switch gears and go to the Hill. Shout out to Robbie. So, a fan favorite, a channel favorite. We watch over here. We have reacted to Robbie, Sove, and the Hill often. Trump deserves Nobel Peace Prize. That's going to be interesting to take a look at. MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene explains Real America First agenda, and Robbie So on the rising. And then we'll switch gears and we will go over to NBC New York, and they covered full video New York City mayoral general election debate. This is a little over 2 hours. So we're not going to watch the entire mayoral debate. We'll probably watch maybe 30 minutes or so of it. But first, let's get into Chris Cuomo and let's see what he's talking about as far as America and their politics. Are we feeling betrayed? Political fatigue? Like, what are we looking at here? So let's jump right in.
Chris, hey, longtime fan. I put you right up there with Ted and Walter, but you're just plain wrong, Chris. I don't know why you're always sticking up for our idiot president. Like tonight, for instance, you're saying that the president was joking when he says he hates when he was given his speech. No, he wasn't joking. That is him. That is the real him. And he keeps getting away with it over and over. People just keep saying, that's just Trump being Trump. That is the real Trump. And I really wish you wouldn't say he was joking. He was not joking, Chris. Anyway, thanks. Keep up the good work.
This isn't just another wallet ad. This is the wallet I carry every day. Okay, don't hit that skip button. Let me just explain. So you see this wallet right here. It's Ridge's American traditional design. Same ultra slim form, now with bold tattoo inspired artwork. And finally, it's back in stock. Now don't let the artwork fool you. This thing literally performs. It's made from aluminum or titanium, holds up to 12 cards, blocks RFID, basically built to survive literally anything. And if you're like me and you've ever lost your wallet, this one's trackable with an AirTag attachment. Wallets aren't exciting until you stop carrying the same wallet that you've been carrying since college and change your life with something more like this. I don't even feel it in my pocket. And here's the best part. You can try them risk-free for 99 days. And right now, pair it with a matching key case. So if you're going to upgrade your wallet and your everyday carry, make it a wallet that actually works with how you live. So that's it. You made it past the skip button. Congratulations. Now do something with that attention span. Go grab one at Ridge.com.
Monday.com, the opposite of any work platform we tried in the past. We tried other work management plattms, not it.
I've always taken the thing he's talking about was the Trump speech where
he said, "I hate my enemies."
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, forgives her enemies. I don't. Why do I say he's joking? Well, one, he said he was joking. Two, it did come across as if he were joking. Three, very often in a joke, there is some truth. And I do think he absolutely hates his enemies. And I think he is also not really a Christian in terms of living it the way people would suggest that one should. And that's okay. We're all flawed. We're all flailing. But the point is, I am not a defender of the president. I am a defender of decency. Okay? I go at the president and this administration every fucking night when it's called for. Do I ignore certain things? Yeah, why? Because I talk about nothing else except what they fucked up with. And I know for some of you, that's all you want. That's why certain social media platforms and certain influencers on the left are popping now. Their reach is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're getting into the millions, and that's so good for their bottom line, but I don't know that it's good for the country because it creates this silo or bubble or whatever metaphor effect you want of a limitation on what you take in. Here's another reason Trump sucks. Here's another reason that they're corrupt. Here's another reason that they're Nazis. Here's another reason that. Where does it get us? They have been weighed and measured. You know who and what these people are. Okay? Is that what you're going to do all through the midterms? And you think you're going to win back the House of Representatives? By not offering the majority in this country who are not in your fucking bubble? Nothing that makes their life better except what? Maybe getting rid of all these people? That's not going to happen. better ideas, better solutions, competence, showing that by comparison, you are a better choice for them and their families. How do you do that? Be on the right side of 80-20 stupid cultural issues that don't even really matter, instead of seeming to defend the most perverse, crazy things, and fighting for what does matter and having better ideas. The shutdown's a perfect example. Cutting Medicaid for the people who need the subsidies, who are in large percentage MAGA voters, is not the way to justify the tax cut. It's bad policy, and I believe the left has high ground on that. But they're not arguing it the right way, and they're not cleaning up the things that need to be cleaned up within that framework, so they're giving the Republicans an out. And now we're stuck in something that's all about who's worse, instead of how to make things better. I'm no defender. I'm a defender of our decency.
This is just an editorial note. He says Jimmy Kimmel, but the audio cuts out, but that's what he's talking about here.
Hi, Chris. You used to be one of my heroes, man. But if you really think that the Jimmy Kimmel tape was a business decision, I don't know what to say. I used to agree with everything that you said. I don't know where you can. I don't know what happened. I guess you're worried about Trump taking you up the air. Anyway, you probably won't even hear this, but you were a mentor and you were a hero, and I just don't know where your mind as far as that's concerned.
All right, first of all, thank you for the half compliment, but even if I were dead wrong on this, and you're right, it just erases everything you've ever thought about me ever before until now. What did I just say? I want to eat babies? Is that what I just said? I mean, come on, man. Don't be so fucking zero sum. So, all in on things. And no, don't say, yeah, I'm all in on truth. This is the social media toxification of your critical thinking. That, you don't just scroll, love, hate, love, hate, love, hate. Even if you were right and I'm wrong on this one, it just completely changes everything for you. It's way too fucked up, okay? Second, I'm not wrong. You have no proof that the FCC chair said what he said to Benny Johnson, in a stupid podcast, to the head of Disney or the station group that had the ABC stations, or to ABC proper. You have no proof. And the head of Disney and the head of the station group say they never had communication with him about it. So you're saying they're liars and that something happened that you can't prove because you heard him say it on the podcast. Now, if your argument is, well, he said it on the podcast and that's what made it happen, I don't accept that. That is not critical thinking. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. And then why did they refute it? Well, because they have a deal that they want to get done before this government, just like Paramount. That's why ABC settled on the Stephanopoulos thing. That's why 60 Minutes settled. That's why YouTube just settled. That's a better argument. That's a better argument. And if this were a president with scruples that led him in a direction of something other than advantage, he would want nothing to do with litigation like this because it looks like blackmail. Make that case. But the idea that for a fact it wasn't a business decision, even if I'm wrong, I'm still right, because even if it's about them wanting to buy the station group, even if it's about them not wanting to be blackmailed or blackballed by Trump, it's still a business decision. Because they're doing what's better for their business, to buy their stations or to do whatever it is they want to do, the merger or whatever it is. Now, do I think all that's wrong? Yeah, I do. But it doesn't make my analysis wrong. They were making a business decision. Whether they were making that business decision for good reason or bad reason is a separate question. And even if my analysis is off, I'm not hiding from fucking anything. Okay? I work at the place that is owned by the place that took Jimmy Kimmel off. And I said I didn't like that he was taken off, but it was a business decision, not a First Amendment violation, unless we have proof of state action. And I don't have it. I just have the FCC guy saying it to Benny Johnson. When asked if he told that to them directly, he said no, and the heads of both of the places said no. What am I supposed to just ignore the fucking facts because I don't like them? Seems like that's what you're asking me to do. And I think the larger point is here that I don't like going all in on something for effect. I know that works on social media. I don't think it works for our society. I mean, just look at how you say, oh, I used to think you were a mentor. I used to think you were this. Now, because I said one fucking thing you disagree with. Come on, brother. I don't give a fuck what you think about me at the end of the day. That's your choice. But, I mean, have a better basis. You know, I mean, just, so if your friend screws up one time, you're never friends with them again? I don't believe that. You sound like a decent guy. You sound like a guy who cares deeply. I respect that and I appreciate you for it. But, you know, feel out the context, man. Feel where I'm coming from and why I'm coming from there. And then you judge.
Hi, Chris. This is Patrick from San Diego, California, and I enjoy watching the show on your podcast. I do think you're calling up the wrong tree in one account on your demonization of the party systems. I think the real issue is that we need new leaders on both sides. They failed us over and over again, and we need a whole new cast of people in there to stop this ridiculousness. The party system isn't going to change it. Going independent isn't going to change that. Anyway, my thoughts.
I think going independent can change it. I do think you need new people, but
Guys, got hair loss? I know what you're...
I would say definitely on the Democratic side. They seem to have the bigger issue where letting the younger people step up and take leadership, take the reins. They seem to have an issue in that area. So we're not going to listen to this part right here. That's always kind of been my opinion on that. I feel like the Republicans have that a little bit more, not necessarily perfect, but a little bit more down pat. Like we see a lot of younger leaders within the Republican Party stepping up. I mean, our vice president is a millennial, you know. So and historically, we just have seen it be on the older side, with the exception of some people. So I do think on the Democratic side, they need to get better with that. Yeah, as far as just some of their sitting people in the House, just the ages, you know, and just not allowing those people to retire and let younger people come in, regardless of how radical you think they are, just giving them a chance to step up, maybe mentoring them and then giving them a chance to step up and, you know, kind of take the reins. And I don't see that a lot in the Democratic Party. All right, so we're going to skip to Charlie Kirk's, the person who assassinated Charlie Kirk. And if this person should get the death penalty, I think Chris Cuomo's going to chime in on this.
For reference, Kirk, I'd just like to express that he would not want that boy put to death. He was against abortion as a Catholic, and he's going to be against state-sponsored execution. Murder is murder, state-sponsored murder, which, just like abortion, people that follow God does not want murder connection. Anyway, my name's Frank, and I'm calling from Southeast Iowa. Bye.
Shout out to Frank. I think this is a huge misconception that people have about the Bible, though. I get it that when people think about the death penalty, the knee-jerk reaction is, you know, you're not God, you shouldn't be taking a life. But I would challenge you, and I would say if you take a look at Romans 13 and 14, especially in 13 when it starts off talking about us submitting to governing authorities and it goes off into 14, you can start to see where God is very explicit about him giving governmental power, that there is no entity that's in place that he hasn't ordained it to be in place. And he even goes on record to say things like, you know, people who rule over you, they don't have the power that they have for no reason. If someone goes as far as, you know, you can say disregarding the law to a certain extent, it's actually not improper for a life to be taken. Right? So the Bible actually, to some extent, when someone would say like, oh, because Charlie Kirk was a Christian, he would be totally against the death penalty. That's not true anyway, because the Bible doesn't support that. But most of all, there are already clips out there of Charlie Kirk talking about that if someone were to kill him or kill somebody, the only justification for that would be another life, that person would have to die. And those are clips that I've saw long before his assassination.
I agree. I don't know about Charlie. I never spoke to him about that. But there has always been a fundamental hypocrisy at play for conservatives. They're in favor of the death penalty, but not reproductive rights. Why? Well, because one is innocent and one is not. Oh, and that's for you to decide? I thought only God decided. I think it's bad social instruction. I don't think it works to reduce crime. I think it's just an instrument of vengeance, which is why Trump loves it.
And that's what I'm saying. When Chris Cuomo says, and that's for you to decide, I think that's for God to decide. Like, he says that like he thinks he just said something profound. And that's nothing against Chris. Like, I kind of like Chris. I don't have anything against him. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the way he responds is not profound. You know, he says, I don't get conservative. They're in favor of the death penalty, but they're not of, what was it? Was it women's rights?
I never spoke to him about that. But there has always been a fundamental hypocrisy at play for conservatives. They're in favor of the death penalty, but not reproductive rights.
So not reproductive rights, meaning that they're not in favor of abortion. Well, this is what Chris doesn't understand. What they are in favor of and what they're not. The Bible supports both ends of it, right? So they're in favor of the death penalty. Well, I just spoke about it. If you go, there's other parts in there where you can see it. But if you explicitly go to where Paul is talking to the Romans and you go to Romans 13 and 14, you can see where God starts to talk about us submitting to governing authorities, those who govern over us, following the law, that governmental entities haven't been put in place without them being ordained by God. You see all of this. And it even starts to talk about someone's life being taken because of them disregarding, disobeying the law. All of that is actually in there. And the next thing that is in there is no favor of abortion in the Bible. So when he sits there and he says, I don't get conservatives because they're in favor of the death penalty, but not in favor of, abortion. It's like, well, each stance that they're taking, the Bible actually backs up both of those stances. And that's where I think like the misinterpretation or the misunderstanding of the Bible comes from amongst a couple of different people, especially on the left, like a couple of liberals.
Well, because one is innocent and one is not. Oh, and that's for you to decide? I thought only God decided. I think it's bad social instruction. I don't think it works to reduce crime. I think it's just an instrument of vengeance, which is why Trump loves it. It's just harshness as strength. That's what it is. It's an instruction in brutality. Now, I also believe that's exactly who we are, by the way. The whole Christian patina thing doesn't work for me. I know you have, let's say, 50% of the country says that they're Christian, or whatever it is, 60%, whatever it is. Yeah, but only like 5%. I don't know what the number is, but it's like only a small slice actually live that way. There's so many mean people with a crucifix after their name who say bullshit and traffic and bullshit and act in a way that doesn't pass any WWJD litmus test.
He's not
ever,
lying,
and
though.
they know it. Oh, but as long as I say I'm sorry on Sunday, it's all forgiven. I don't believe in that. And I don't know what Charlie would want, and I just think the whole situation sucks. I think the message of his widow was really powerful about forgiveness, especially because it's so forgotten in our society. No one forgives. There is no love of mercy. You say you want an apology, but you only want it to rub in somebody's face and play to advantage. You don't forgive shit, and you want forgiveness. And I think we're in a really bad place. And I don't know what Charlie would have wanted. But I do know that there is a consistency to your opinion, and conservatives have been way too slow in making the accommodation and the connection that you are.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want?
I would like you to address the fact that over the last 36 hours, I have received 6 fundraising requests from Turning Point USA, expressing their grief over Charlie's assassination, which we can all agree is horrible, but yet they're trying to fundraise off of it. I find that incredibly repulsive. Love to hear you address that. Thank you.
Makes complete sense to me. This is the time to raise money. This is the time to get new chapters. This is the time to use that. I mean, this is an advocacy group. This is about doing whatever you can and using whatever you can to spread the message. What should be distasteful should begin and end with the murder. What do you think they were going to do? This is what organizations do. And I guess you could see it as opportunistic, but they are looking for the opportunity. What better way in his widow's mind to honor her husband than the legacy of what he cared about most in his life, which was Turning Point USA. I'm not surprised by it at all. What surprises me is the reaction to that. Not Turning Point raising money. I get it. I get why it doesn't feel good. I get you on that. But I gave you another perspective on that. But how people are bothered by Erica Kirk and what she said and how she said it and her style and how all this lionizing of Charlie and enshrining him and his beliefs. I mean, it's wrong that he was murdered, but at the same time, that's what pisses me off. If you want to talk about his ideas, now I don't accept this paradigm when it's a school shooting. When it's a school shooting, it's a time to talk about why we have school shootings. Okay? When he is murdered, it is time to talk about why people like this get murdered. But part of that conversation to me, there is no way to explain or mitigate the murder because you didn't like his ideas. Okay? The bar for that, to me, it has to be so high. Like, to use something that people abuse all the time in our society. If it were Hitler in the middle of World War II, and you killed him during a speech, I'd be fine with it. Why? Because of what he was doing, not merely what he was saying.
And he makes a point. That's probably, and this is the reason why I had so many people say, well, if were you happy when Hitler died, and like comparing him to Charlie Kirk in some weird way. And I just thought to myself, like, dude, you're already starting off on the wrong foot. Charlie Kirk was no Hitler. The only reason why people would have rejoiced when Hitler died is because of things that he was doing. Just like what Chris Cuomo said. Not even so much of what he was saying, but more of what he was doing. And that's the thing. Like, Charlie Kirk wasn't doing the things that Hitler was doing. But you have some people that will say, yeah, he was, because of so many things that he was saying. Stop it. That's ridiculous. And if you didn't listen to it in its full context, you don't know what you're talking about. All right, guys. So we're going to switch gears. Let's go over to the Hill with Robbie Soul. Trump deserves Nobel Peace Prize. MTG explains Real America First agenda. Robbie Soul rising. Let's take a listen. Let me go past the shout out to Robbie Soul and the rising though.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the most ideologically consistent, truly America First members of Congress. She's a patriot, she's a Republican, she's MAGA, and she supports President Trump. But she isn't afraid to say what policy areas are working and which ones are not. To that end, she recently appeared on Tim Dillon's podcast and made some news by admitting that she thinks the tariffs might be getting in the way of President Trump's agenda by driving up costs for manufacturers. Let's watch.
And I'm talking to major manufacturing companies they're saying we support the president, we support what he's trying, his long-term goal, but we're having problems with these tariffs. And now we're having problems. We can't get supplies from this country, and we can't get supplies from this country. And there's problems. But have regular people's bank accounts been affected? Has the stress come off? No, that has not happened yet, and that needs to be the major focus.
And it's not just tariffs. MTG also explained why the administration's deportation policy, if taken to an extreme, is going to hurt American businesses. Watch this.
As a conservative and as a business owner in the construction industry and as a realist, I can say we have to do something about labor, and that needs to be a smarter plan than just rounding up every single person and deporting them just like that. Right. So, and I'm going to get pushed back on that, but I'm just living in reality from here on out. Yeah. And if anybody's mad at me for saying the truth, then I'm sorry.
Bravo. Now, undoubtedly, some regime sycophants are going to be knocking MTG for daring to speak her mind and admit that she recognizes some downsides associated with tariffs and mass deportations. I see things differently. In fact, I think we need to start calling her based Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's absolutely right. And smart people in the administration need to listen to her, because they already know what she's saying is correct. Let's be clear. Trump was absolutely elected president with a mandate to reduce illegal immigration and mitigate the harms associated with it. That's absolutely true. We need to reduce crime and unfair competition from foreign labor, workers who don't have to follow the same labor regulations as Americans because of their illicit status. By all means, let's work on that. But we can't just round up everybody who's technically here illegally and who's working without devastating the farming sector, the hospitality sector, the tech sector, and so on. The Republican Party is the party of business. It's the party of big business and small business. We can't drive labor costs up for business owners and expect to remain in power. GOP voters and Americans writ large want food to cost less. They want electronics to cost less. They want services to cost less. And it's not just about the immigrants, it's also, as based MTG notes, about the tariffs. If businesses have to pay more money to obtain raw materials, they pass those costs on to you and to me. It's just a fact. Trump is well within his rights to use U.S. trade policy as a negotiating tactic with other nations in hopes of bringing down overall barriers to trade between America and the rest of the world. But painful, significant, across-the-board tariffs are going to cripple U.S. industries. That's a great irony of the populist faction of MAGA. They say we need to reshore our factories and have manufacturing take place domestically. But then they're unwilling to push for the policies that we would need in order to make that possible. Free trade for the relevant raw materials and more permissive labor regulations, including around immigration. MTG understands that because, unlike many of her colleagues in the Republican and Democratic parties, well, A, she's actually a business owner, and B, she listens to her constituents. She asks them what their concerns are. Amazing concept. Maybe more members of Congress could perhaps follow her lead on that. So I don't know, Lindsay. I'm starting to feel an MTG for president.
Well, don't go too far. I like Marjorie Taylor Greene, what she's doing right now. Overall, I think that it's important to speak out. I do want to just be honest. Re-election season is next year. She has a lot on her agenda. It is important to answer to constituents if you would like to keep your position.
Yeah.
I mean, people are not ordained into office, right? They get voted in.
She takes calls. I love when she does interviews. She says, here's what I'm hearing. She's talking
about, and also I appreciate, like you said, people speaking from a business perspective. Now, you took what I said about Marjorie Taylor Greene last week and flipped it on its head. I said, oh, this is just a calling out of the Republican Party. You said, oh no, she still is aligned with Trump, but she's calling out these things. Well, the biggest things of his presidency the last 9 months, she has vehemently disagreed on wholeheartedly. So we're talking about Epstein, huge issue in his presidency. We're talking about the handling of Israel and Hamas. She literally calls it a genocide, which is not words that you hear many people in her party saying. We're talking about health care. The president does not want to negotiate with Democrats regarding health care. She does, and she wants those premiums not to double at the beginning of next year. And now we're talking about immigration. She literally does not like the policies and the way it's going about it when you're watching children be separated from their parents who were just working here and living a normal life, not criminals, but be taken away by ICE. And so that would, to me, just make her a Democrat. I don't know why that would just... These are all big policies. This is completely against everything that the party is standing for right now. So why does this not, to you, send a sign? And wait, let me finish my overall point, because I do think that I know you want to isolate it as somebody who's just outspoken and bold. And two things can be true at once. She is outspoken and bold. At the same time, she is the antithesis to many things that President Trump is actively campaigning on. Not even campaigning, he has the job actively pushing forward. She is literally saying the opposite. So why would that make her in lockstep or even in tandem with the Republican Party right now when Democrats are saying
she doesn't
the
have
same
to agree
things
with
that
every
she's saying?
single
Just
thing
help me
that he
understand and
does.
take the
If she
picture
does,
about how she's
that's
not breaking away from the party. And we talk about the voices that she's echoing. Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, we're here.
See, it's kind of like the way this lady's putting her point, and I don't think it's bad. But, you know, she's saying, like, this is pretty much giving Democrat. Like, she might as well be a Democrat. Like, she's going against everything the Republican Party stands for. And I don't think that she is. I think if you talk to her, Marjorie Taylor Greene would tell you, no, I'm very much a conservative. But, again, I've said this on live stream before. She doesn't have to agree with every single thing that President Trump is doing. There's plenty of things that I like President Trump, plenty of things that I like what he's doing and I agree with it. And then there are some things where I'm like, I don't really know how I feel about that. That is okay. You're entitled to your own opinion. I'm not sure why people are getting worked up about this and saying things like, oh, she's turning Democrat. She belongs on the liberal side. No, she doesn't. She's not going to agree with every single thing that he does. And I think this is normal. But I think because they've seen President Trump's cabinet in lockstep so much and not really any type of division, that just even this little bit is kind of just stirring people up.
Some of the same complaints that she's bringing up
I don't
come up
think
in
it's
this
a big deal at
podcasting
all.
space that you covet so much. And so it just sounds to me more like the way you're trying to position it is very too generous and nice from what it actually is to break away from MAGA as a whole.
Let's take those one by one. On Epstein, the Democrats have moved to where the MAGA position was. So that's not reflective of her changing her position. On healthcare, you maybe have a point there. She is now echoing talking points of Democrats on healthcare. On that one, I don't agree with her. I'll back the president on that one. Although he said something like maybe we should give them the subsidy. I would not increase the healthcare or maintain the healthcare subsidy. So we disagree on that. Now, on labor policy and tariffs, look, it is possible, I think, to support reducing more violent crime associated with illegal immigration and using tariffs as a strategy for negotiating trade deals. That is fine, but what the Republican Party should be cognizant of, and Trump should be cognizant of, and people in the orbit should understand, is that the higher costs associated with deporting the workers and tariffing the raw materials get passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. And that is exactly what Trump ran on. Stop. Yes, I know he said tariffs are not a surprise, deportation should not be a surprise, but there are trade-offs. And the trade-off is higher prices, and that is going to derail the entire agenda if it is not dealt with.
And
so the deportation has got to be more strategic. Stop. Watch the farming sector. Watch the South Korean people who are building a factory that nobody else knows even how to build, and we deported them. That was the stupidest thing we've ever done, and all that. What I'm saying is more listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene will be to the benefit of the Republican Party.
Robbie, what's on your radar today?
Give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. Do it. Seriously, there's a good argument to be made that the president deserves it. Thanks to Trump, there's finally peace in Gaza, and all remaining living Israeli hostages have been returned. Trump achieved what President Biden could not. He persuaded the Israeli government, which under Benjamin Netanyahu has been extremely reluctant to end the war, to make at least a temporary peace with Hamas, the terrorist group responsible for the October 7 massacre. No one can predict the future, and if the past is any indication, peace often proves to be elusive in this part of the world. That said, there is renewed optimism and a real hope that peace could return, a peace that involves the safety and security of Israel and its people, as well as self-determination and new leadership for the Gaza Strip under a government that wants to live in harmony side by side with Israel. And the man who got it done, Donald Trump, deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Here was the president of Pakistan formally nominating Trump for the prize yesterday.
One of the greatest days in contemporary history, because peace has been achieved after untiring efforts led by President Trump, who is genuinely a man of peace, who has relentlessly and untiringly worked throughout these months, day in and day out, to make this world a place to live with peace and prosperity.
News broke last week, of course, that the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize would be awarded to Maria Corina Machado, a Venezuelan political activist who has worked tirelessly against the despotic and socialist Maduro regime in that country. Now, I did see some chatter on social media from, shall we say, extremely eager fans of President Trump who were actually dismissive of Machado and insisted that the Nobel Committee screwed up by giving the prize to her instead of to Trump. Stephen Chung, for instance, who works for White House Comm, suggested that in choosing Machado instead of Trump, the committee, quote, proved they place politics over peace. Now, it's true that the committee has gravely erred in the past, including by prematurely awarding President Barack Obama a Nobel Peace Prize in 2009, just a few months into his first term, even though Obama had accomplished very, very little, practically nothing in terms of fostering peace. But Machado, unlike Obama, is a perfectly good choice. In fact, she sees herself as a fellow traveler and ally of Trump. In remarks following her receipt of the award, she praised Trump and even dedicated her victory to him. Watch this.
And they decided to dedicate it to President Trump because he deserves it. Because not only has he been involved in only a few months in solving 8 wars, but his actions have been decisive to have Venezuela now at a threshold of freedom after 26 years of tyranny that have destroyed the lives of millions of Venezuela, destabilized the region, and undermined institutions in the United States.
Good for Machado, who is a beacon of resistance to socialist tyranny. And there's no reason Trump can't win the prize next year, perhaps after achieving even more victories in the eternal quest for peace. Trump certainly deserves the award more than Barack Obama. If any president should get a Nobel Peace Prize, not because of vibes, because Oslo thinks he's cool, or because he uses lofty rhetoric, but because of actual achievements in the realm of fostering peace, it should be President Donald Trump.
And Donald Trump accomplished an amazing feat by bringing
and I'm ready to give him the award.
Israel and Hamas together, and that should certainly be noted, duly noted. No peace prize for me. I don't think that that's appropriate. Amnesty International actually calls Trump's leadership, quote, cruel and chaotic, saying that it's actually a human rights emergency. Some ways that they say that is that he suppresses dissent in the U.S. By attacking news outlets and political enemies, that he has authoritarian tactics to punish any of his critics, like he's going after Letitia James. He targets immigrants through deportations, asylum restrictions, and family separations. We see people in Chicago getting ripped away from their children as they're trying to drop them off to school. He's undermining press freedoms and attacking journalists, literally trying to throw him out of the Pentagon as we speak.
I said give him a
He's pulling back LGBTQ rights, marginalizing.
What LGBTQ rights are being pulled back?
He's literally trying to attack the trans community.
Name me an LGBTQ right that's being pulled back.
He's trying to attack the trans community.
How is he attacking? What is he doing to the trans community?
They made the entire Charlie Kirk assassination about trans people, when really the administration, they immediately tried to make it a political war. And so this is not somebody who's
No.
I know,
You made it specifically. The LGBTQ community is not under attack by any Trump policies.
And he's marginalizing racial minorities by pretending like history doesn't exist. So this is not somebody. He wants to erase the Smithsonian Museum. So why would this be somebody that wants a peace prize from me? No. He did a great thing.
Here's a false claim.
No, I didn't. What's untrue? He's suppressing dissent. He's suing news outlets for saying bad things about him.
What does it have to do with peace?
That's not peaceful. That's not peaceful. He's literally he wants to run state-run media in the U.S. That's not peaceful. That's not peaceful. I don't understand. I'm just telling you, I understand we have different opinions here, but I certainly think that while it's notable,
we're talking about ending
he's creating chaos
and
in
strife
the U.S.
between nations of the world.
While creating chaos within his own country. I don't know that deserves a peace prize, is what I'm saying.
Do you think Barack Obama deserved his peace prize?
Yes, in 2009 he came right after President Bush, where he brought down the temperature after we went in and...
Brought down the temperature?
Yes, after we went in after weapons of mass destruction and invaded a country when these weapons did not even exist. Barack Obama came in and brought the temperature down and said we need to denuclearize the entire world. He would love that to be a lofty goal, and that's part of the reason that he was the first president actually saying that, rather than bolster our nuclear powers.
Okay. So you get awards for saying that's what I did exactly.
He also created
it's awards for saying nice things, not for getting it done.
Relationship between Muslim people and made it a more comfortable place after they were attacked constantly after 9/11, like all Muslim people were bad. He changed that rhetoric. Sometimes your tone and the things you say, how you behave, and how you exemplify a presidential leadership quality is enough to create
the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
To you.
That your attitude is more important than results?
This is not results. We don't know what's going to happen yet. He ended the war. I said we should acknowledge
He got the hostages back. How many hostages did Barack Obama get back?
I'm just telling you. I don't think he deserves a peace prize. I said we should acknowledge that President Trump did a good job.
Not a single person would buy this argument in the entire
It's my argument. I don't think that he gets a peace prize. I also think that Machado gets a peace prize, but also aligning, and she did, like you said, I agree with you about Venezuela, but the fact that how President Trump went about it by calling counter narcotics missions, counter-terrorism missions, and blowing up boats that could have killed civilians is not peaceful.
She supports him.
She supports him, but that's not what not what the world does.
She wants those
and that's
boats
terrible.
exploded.
So that headline should read: Nobel Peace Prize gets awarded to the woman who thinks that you should blow up boats that possibly have civilians on.
We'll take it. Well, then it's not like you do disagree with the committee.
I don't think that the committee is all perfect. I'm just telling you, President Trump doesn't get it. I'm not on the committee. So my argument is not whether they make bad choices or good choices. It's that President Trump certainly is not peaceful. That's my argument.
I don't, with all due respect, I don't understand how anyone could think Barack Obama was a worthy for doing. He ended no conflicts, none. The Afghanistan withdrawal didn't even happen until Trump.
He caused no conflicts.
He
President Trump caused conflicts every
single day.
You don't know anything. Just Google Trump conflict.
Not
ignited
conflict. I understand that domestic.
He just said
he's
going to give Ukraine even more weapons.
Ukraine is being invaded.
Exactly, but that's not bringing the
Peace doesn't always mean surrender.
You wanted it to be 6 months ago. You thought we should give Russia whatever they're asking for.
No, I didn't say whatever they were asking. I said what they have already
taken
taken in the interest of having peace now.
I don't think you should get a peace prize, Robbie. You can't kill the messenger. I'm speaking for half the country here.
You're not the
We don't
messenger.
agree.
You're uninformed. You're not the messenger.
In the normal fashion, Robbie, let's start us off with what is on your radar.
Well, we're going to start out with some agreement today. I think, Niall, no one is happy about the Pentagon's new press policy. Earlier this week, media outlets spanning the political spectrum almost universally declined to sign on to a memorandum issued by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. It would require defense reporters to promise that they will not seek to obtain unauthorized information. Quote, information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it's released, even if it is unclassified, the memorandum states. Now, Hegseth is, of course, within his rights to forbid his own employees from leaking stories to journalists to the extent that's possible, and federal officials who do leak classified documents can be prosecuted under existing law, although it's often, frankly, in the public's interest for them to do so anyway. But if anything is to be done, government policy should place constraints on government employees, not on journalists or the public. Now, obviously, reporters are going to try to induce Pentagon officials to provide information, even if it's not approved for public release by Hegseth's personal PR department. Now, this is so obvious it's effectively nonpartisan, which is why conservative news outlets from Fox News, Newsmax.
Right, I'm gonna stop right there for the Hill. Shout out to them. All right, now let's go over to NBC New York. Full video. New York Mayoral general election debate. We're gonna take a look at this. We're not gonna watch the entire thing because it's over 2 hours. Just a couple minutes of it, and then I'm gonna cut it, and you guys can head over to NBC New York and watch the rest. So let's go ahead and jump right in.
Government Affairs reporter Melissa Russo, senior politics editor at Politico Sally Goldenberg, and Telemundo 47 anchor Rosarena Breton. This is a 2-hour debate live on all NBC New York and Telemundo 47 streaming and digital platforms, Politico.com, Telexitos, and YouTube. The first hour is also live on Channel 4 and Telemundo 47. We do have a few rules for the candidates. For traditional question and answer, you'll have 1 minute to respond, and we'll offer 30-second rebuttals at the moderator's discretion. We'll also be asking questions where we will be looking for shorter answers. We also reserve the right to cut off your microphone if you ignore the rules with candidates. You know we don't want to do that. The goal is for you to hear each other and for New Yorkers to hear everything you have to say. Good luck. We'll begin with Melissa Russo.
Thank you, David, and good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. We begin tonight by asking you to do what every mayor dreams of, and that is to write your own headlines. Imagine it's January 2027, and you have been in office for exactly 1 year. We would like you to quickly give us one headline about what you think your biggest accomplishment will have been in year number 1. We'll begin with you, Mr. Cuomo.
First, thank you very much for sponsoring the debate and having all of us. The one headline, how many characters in the headline?
You're familiar with headline length.
Rent down, comma, crime down, comma, education scores up, comma, more jobs in New York City.
Now we're getting maybe a little over the average headline length, but
optimism high.
thank you. Mr. Sliwa.
Curtis Sliwa is without his iconic red beret because I'm talking to the people of New York City about the really serious issues of affordability, the cost of living, and obviously what I've spent most of my life doing, which is public safety in the streets and the subway.
We would love a headline from you. What will your headline be, your big headline in year number 1 as mayor?
Curtis Sliwa exceeds all expectations and looks very mayoral tonight.
Mr. Mondani, you've had some time to think about it now. What's your headline?
It's a pleasure to be here, first of all, and I really want to thank the moderators and the opportunity to speak directly to New Yorkers about this moment in time and our opportunity to transform the most expensive city in the United States of America. The headline would read in about a year, Mondani continues to take on Trump, delivers on affordability agenda for New Yorkers.
Thank you, Mr. Mondani. Sally?
Thank you, Melissa.
We're going to talk about leadership. Voters have reservations about all three of you as chief executive of New York City, a city with roughly 300,000 employees and a budget bigger than many countries. We have questions for each of you, and Mr. Cuomo, we will begin with you. As a former governor of New York, you obviously have the management experience, but you resigned from office amid sexual harassment and COVID-related scandals. Why should voters now trust that you have the character to be mayor? You have 1 minute.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the question. First, you are right. I left office. There was a report that was done that had allegations of harassment. I said at the time it was a political report, and that there was no basis to it. It was then sent to 5 district attorneys. They all reviewed it. They found nothing. It was then litigated for 5 years. I was dropped from the cases. So none of that came to anything. When it comes to executive experience, I've run the Department of Housing and Urban Development, built housing all across the nation. I was governor for 11 years. The budget is double what it is in New York City, and I got government to work. I passed groundbreaking laws, minimum wage, paid family leave, built projects that had never been built before. This is no job for on-the-job training. And if you look at the failed mayors, they're ones that had no management experience. Don't do it again.
Thank you. Ms. Arena?
Thank you, Sally. In the theme of leadership, Mr. Mandani, you work as a foreclosure prevention counselor for winning seat in the state assembly. You have no substantial management experience. How are you ready to lead the nation's largest and greatest city in the world in one day?
He's not.
You know, I have the experience of having served in the New York State Assembly for 5 years and watching a broken political system, the experience of seeing a governor in Andrew Cuomo who would rather have served his billionaire donors and the working class New Yorkers who voted for him, and the experience amidst all of that of fighting and winning for working class taxi drivers to free them from predatory debt and delivering the first free bus lines in New York City history, and working with unions and working class New Yorkers to finally raise taxes just that little bit on Mr. Cuomo's donors to start to fully fund our public school. And more than that, I have the experience of being a New Yorker, someone who has actually paid rent in the city before I ran for mayor, someone who has had to wait for a bus that never came, someone who actually buys his groceries in this same city. And what all of that experience has shown me, which Mr. Cuomo can't seem to understand, is that it is far too expensive and far too hard for New Yorkers to afford to live in this city. And the definition of experience is not doing the same thing again and again and hoping for a different result. That's actually the definition of insanity.
Thank you, Mr. Mandani.
If I can, I think I was invoked.
Yes.
In other words, what the Assemblyman said is he has no experience. And this is not a job for someone who has no management experience to run 300,000 people, no financial experience to run $115 billion budget. He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother. This is not a job for a first-timer. Any day, you could have a hurricane, you God forbid, a 9/11, a health pandemic. If you don't know what you're doing, people will die.
Mr. Mandani, you want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. When I don't have an experience, I make up for in integrity. And when you don't have an integrity, you can never make up for in experience.
Yeah. First, what you said was totally false, as you know.
Which part was false?
During COVID, everyone did whatever they could in this state. And there have been numerous investigations where they've gone through it and they said we followed federal guidance, but yes, people died during COVID, and my heart breaks for everyone that died in this state and across this nation.
But just to be clear, Mr., just to fact check that, there is a criminal investigation reportedly underway at the DOJ about your testimony to Congress about your nursing home record.
Yeah, but that is a political issue with the Congress. They made a referral, which has gone absolutely nowhere. But there have been multiple investigations where the DOJ found that the nursing home investigation was politically motivated.
Okay, we're going to move on. We might have time to come back to it. I do need to move on to Mr.
May I just finish my rebuttal? But the Assemblyman still says he has no experience to do the job.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Sliwa, as founder of the Guardian Angels and as a radio host, You've been a well-known figure in New York City for decades, but you also lack substantial management experience. So how are you prepared to be the chief executive officer of New York City? You have 1 minute, Mr. Sliwa.
First of all, I created the Guardian Angels to provide public safety in the subways and streets when government was incapable of doing so. I didn't do it to get a title or a paycheck. Secondarily, I don't declare myself to be all-knowing. I will hire the very brightest and best in their fields who have dedicated their lives to trying to improve the city of New York or the state or the federal government or the private sector. But what I will say is, thank God I'm not a professional politician. We have the architect and we have the apprentice of no cash bail, which has been a disaster. We have the architect and the apprentice here of Raise the Age. My own son was almost killed because of that in a gang attack. We have the architect and we have the apprentice of Close Rikers Island, which would just release criminals in the street. Thank God I'm not a professional politician, because they have helped create this crime crisis in the city that we face, and I
Thank you,
will
Mr.
resolve.
Sliwa.
Thank you. Mr. Sliwa, candidates, President Trump has expressed intense interest in this election and in all of you personally. Mr. Mamdani, the president called you, quote, my little communist. Mr. Sliwa, he said you're, quote, not exactly prime time. Mr. Cuomo, he has been critical of you, but said you have always gotten along. The president has threatened to cut federal funds to the city. And just yesterday, he killed the Gateway Project, the tunnel connecting New York to New Jersey. You've all promised to resist him in some way. What would you say in your first official call to the president to set the tone for your relationship moving forward? We'll give you a minute for this. We'll start with you, Mr. Mamdani.
I would make it clear to the president that I am willing to not only speak to him, but to work with him if it means delivering on lowering the cost of living for New Yorkers. That's something that he ran his presidential campaign on, and yet all he's been able to deliver thus far has been prosecuting his political enemies and trying to enact the largest deportation program in American history. And what distinguishes me from Andrew Cuomo is the fact that he has gotten on the phone with that same president, not asking him how to work together to help New Yorkers, or not telling him that he would refuse to back down to protect those New Yorkers, but instead asking him how to win this race. That's something I can do myself. I don't need the president's assistance for. And what I tell the president is if he ever wants to come for New Yorkers in the way that he has been, he's going to have to get through me as the next mayor of this city.
All right, Mr. Cuomo,
That won't
we'll
be
give you
hard.
extra time, but I'd like you to answer this question as well.
Trump ain't worried about you.
First, I never had a conversation with the president that the assembly was talking about. But he's has a distant relationship with the truth. I would say to the president in the first conversation, look, we have had many, many battles. We fought together every day during COVID. And the battles were bloody. And I'd like to avoid them. You know, if you come after New York, you know what I'm gonna do. You know it's going to be ugly. And you know, my chances are almost 50-50, even though you're the president. I'd like to work with you. I think we can do good things together, but number one, I will fight you every step of the way if you try to hurt New York.
Unless he weaponizes the justice system to go after the attorney general of this state, in which case you'll issue a statement that doesn't even name the president. And no matter what you think about Donald Trump, you know that not even being able to name him is an act of cowardice. And that's what we would see from Donald Trump's puppet.
All right, I do want to get Ms. Sliwa, but Mr. Cuomo, I'll give you a few seconds to respond to that.
Yeah, I said political weaponization of the justice system is wrong. Both sides do it. It's wrong when Donald Trump does it. It's wrong when they did it to Comey. It's wrong when Comey did it to Hillary. It was wrong when it happened to Tish James.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. I want to give Mr. Sliwa a chance to answer this. Mr. Sliwa, in your first official conversation with the president, what would you say to set the tone?
Well, first of all, there's high levels of testosterone in this room. I've had a love-hate relationship with Donald Trump that goes back over 30 years. But I know one thing. We have Andrew Cuomo, we have John Mamdani. They want to take on Donald Trump. Look, you can be tough, but you can't be tough if it's going to cost people desperately needed federal funds. John Mamdani, the president, has already said it's going to take $7 billion out of the budget right from the start if you're elected mayor. People are going to suffer in this city. People who need those federal funds. What I would do is sit and negotiate. I would say, look, Mr. President, we need that Gateway Tunnel. It moves millions of people from Washington, D.C. to Boston. But take away the Q train project. We don't need those 3 stations going from 96th Street to 125th. It's not a necessity. Sit with the president and whoever he delegates and try to negotiate. But if you try to get tough with Trump, the only people who are going to suffer from that are the people of New York City.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa, thank you. Brief response, Mr. Mamdani.
You know, Mr. Trump is already suspending infrastructure grants to this city, and he's doing it in a blatant act of political retribution. And what it requires is leadership that will stand up to him. And I disagree with Mr. Sliwa. We do need to extend the 2nd Avenue subway to 125th Street. It was a promise made to Harlemites decades ago.
Okay.
It's time to actually fulfill it.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Okay, quick question for each of you. Mr. Cuomo, you've been asked this before.
He mentioned my name. Do I get a chance to respond?
Well, we got a lot of ground to cover, so
When was the last time you spoke with President Trump, Mr. Cuomo? You've been asked this before, and the last time you said you couldn't remember?
I believe it was
They
during
let
his
Curtis respond. I
assassination.
don't like that.
So last year in 2024. Mr. Sliwa, when was the last time you spoke with President Trump?
Oh, many years ago, we were receiving awards. I was praising him for saving the annual Veterans Day Parade. Those were the conversations that I had with him. Can I please respond? I was asked about the Q train.
Okay, real quick.
I am the mayor of mass transit. We do not need a Q train. I'm in the subways every day. We have more than a capable system of transporting people. The infrastructure needs to be fixed in the system that we have.
Mr. Mamdani, have you ever spoken with President Trump?
No.
Okay, there you go. Sally.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, a follow-up to that. President Trump has spoken positively about you and your candidacy, even as his Justice Department, as we've noted, is reportedly investigating you for allegations you lied to Congress over your COVID record. Given that dynamic, how would you be able to stand up to this White House? How are you not compromised? And just take into account that New Yorkers are troubled by what they view as a compromised relationship the current outgoing mayor has with the president.
Yeah, first you're wrong when you say there's any investigation of me. That's not true. Congress,
there is no
I've heard
investigation?
absolutely nothing. Congress did a press release. They said they sent a letter to the Department of Justice.
It's just crazy to me how divisive mainstream media can be. Because I'm thinking to myself, this is the mayoral race of New York City. This is the mayoral debate of New York City. Why does this news banner say Trump versus the candidates? As if Trump is not the president of those candidates. Like, this is like mainstream media is so divisive, it's disgusting. If anything, it should be Chris Cuomo. It should be Andrew Cuomo. Sorry, Chris. It should be Andrew Cuomo versus Curtis Sliwa versus Zohran Mamdani. It should not be Trump versus the candidates. This is what mainstream media is so problematic. It's ridiculous.
Team lead to generate press, and that's what that is. I fought Donald Trump. He investigated me repeatedly with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice Inspector General said that it was actually politically motivated. That does not back me up. When I'm fighting for New York, I am not going to stop. And I'll tell you something else. If the Assemblyman is elected mayor, Donald Trump will take over New York City, and it will be Mayor Trump who runs New York City.
We have to move on. Just a very quick follow-up. Yes or no? You're saying unequivocally the Justice Department is not investigating you, correct?
I've heard absolutely nothing.
They could be, and you might not have heard it, but okay, we'll move on. David?
Okay, thanks, Sally.
That is virtually impossible, by the way.
Okay.
So, Mr. Cuomo, you did put out an ad the day after the news first broke in the New York Times that you were under investigation, calling it a political investigation, saying they were coming after you as they had to, after other Democratic politicians. You haven't denied this previously.
That the Republican Congress was. Yes, I believe they play politics with the justice system. Okay. I believe the Republican Congress does it. I believe Donald Trump does it. I believe the Democrats do it. And that's why I think people are sick and tired of the justice system and the politics.
If you think that there's no difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, then that's the candidate for you. If you think it's time to have a Democratic Party that actually stands up to Donald Trump and his billionaire-backed working people,
well, first of all, you're not a Democrat.
Candidates,
You're not a Democrat. You're a Democratic socialist.
We have
you didn't vote for Kamala Harris, right?
We have other ground to cover. We have other ground to cover.
That's an incendiary charge. I want to be very.
You may have a chance to address it, but we do.
I'll be very
a lot of issues to get to with New Yorkers, Mr.
I'll be very quick.
You didn't say leave it blank in the Kamala
I'll be very
campaign?
quick. I said leave it blank in the presidential primary because primaries are a place to air dissent. And like many Americans, I was horrified by Israeli the
Mamdani.
genocide of Palestinians.
Okay.
And if you want to look for me on the ballot, you'll find me as the
Okay,
Democrat.
Mr. Mamdani, thank you. We have to move on. This week, the world is reacting to President Trump's Israel-Hamas peace deal and the release of the hostages. And many are cautiously optimistic about a lasting peace. Of course, the mayor has no direct role in foreign affairs, and we certainly have a lot of questions for you about city matters. But this war has been a major topic in the campaign, and there are criticisms about your positions in the past and how you envision leading on these issues as mayor. So we have questions for all of you, but first for Mr. Mamdani, because of something you said that's been generating headlines in the news today as we come into the debate. Yesterday on Fox News, you were asked if Hamas should lay down its weapons, key to the peace plan and ceasefire. And some say they found your answer confusing. You said, quote, "I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety."
All right, guys, I'm gonna stop that there. I wanted to go about an hour into the second live stream. You guys can head over to NBC New York and watch the rest of that. We only went about 17 minutes in. Like I said, it's over 2 hours, so I wasn't gonna watch all of that. At least not live stream with you guys. I've gotten a chance to watch quite a bit of it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the live stream. We are going to come back tomorrow for some church live streaming because it is Sunday. So we're gonna do some things on here that honor Christ. Even though I try to do that every single day, we're gonna do it because it's Sunday. And I do have people that look for that here on the channel on Sunday, because years ago that's how the channel started, with me doing things like that. So I want to try to also bring you guys, if I can bring you guys the news 5 to 6 days a week, I can bring you guys some Jesus as far as in a sermon format. And I would like to do that. Even if I find it in a podcasting format, if I think it'll be edifying or it'll feed you or I think it'll resonate in some type of way based on what we're dealing with in culture today, I'm going to play it. So I will see you guys tomorrow for a Sunday live stream. Right now, Sunday is not completely set in stone. We're still working out the scheduling. That would be me and the Holy Spirit until I get that prompting. But right now, I know that I can bring it to you guys sometimes. It is not something that I can always do because as of right now, between Saturday and Sunday, I am celebrating my Sabbath. So I try not to do much YouTube on at least one of those days. But tomorrow we will be back with a little bit of some church because it's Sunday. And then also probably if we're going to react to some news, it will be something light that I can bring you guys. And then we'll just cruise right into Monday. So I will see you guys tomorrow for our daily live stream. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. Peace.